school is supposed to be a preparation for life. And life is not all about people that are 100,000% like you.
Are we building kids that are just too soft and can't handle life? I mean, our kids are so soft today. One little thing, we take care of it for them.
We think our children are the best ever, right? So our child gets read to someone, and a family says no to us. Welcome to the Learning Curve podcast, brought to you by Mishpacha Magazine.
We're raising children in a changing and challenging world.
So let's tackle the important issues facing families today.
I'm Rabbi Garfield, Manal of Yeshiva Torah Emes in Houston, and I love talking about chinuch.
I'm Rabbi Ari Schoenfeld, Manal of Yeshiva Katana of Manhattan, Rosh Meister of Beis Sipra Manhattan, Director of Camp Aish. I also love talking chinuch, and of course, a little bit of fishing.
Join us as we answer your questions and discuss the topics that matter to parents the most.
Welcome back to another edition of The Learning Curve. Rabbi Garfield, onward we go. How are you?
Hey, good, Baruch Hashem, yes. We're about halfway there, right? Midwinter. Midwinter is upon us.
Midwinter is upon us, and I look forward soon, the next week or so, very shortly. I'll be coming to Houston. I think we have to do something there, right? Even at least make believe we're doing a podcast. We can't see each other live as I come for a very special day of chinuch.
Correct, and not bring together the whole chevra with me and you and the listeners.
Yes.
We'll find a way to connect. Yeah.
Find a way to connect. So, Baruch Hashem, I think before we begin this episode, we should let the listeners know that Amir Hashem, the next episode will be something we haven't done before. Maybe it's a little bit brave of us. And that is respond to the responders, right? So usually we deal with questions that we get, and then we try to answer those questions in the best way possible. Often people have thoughts on our thoughts. And so I believe episode 8, which is the coming episode after today, after this one, will be us reading some of the responses from some of our listeners. We'll see what their thoughts are, and then we'll be able to engage further. So it'll be a guestless episode, the next one, but maybe more interesting. I don't know. We'll see.
I really enjoyed that part of this, because Mishpacha has such a wide sort of range of listeners and a wide net. The comments are just very interesting and very appreciated. And they're not all pretty, but they're all appreciated. Let's put it that way.
And we'll see. We'll see how pretty what guts we have at the next episode. But that's for the next one. But now we have actually a very exciting episode tonight, and a very special guest that we'll bring on soon. Sure. But as always, we tease the audience with some shorter questions before we delve into the big topic. 2 short questions, a spotlight question. Away we go. Who won?
Ask you one. I'm asking you first. So
all right.
Here we go. My son is in 11th grade and recently got his first phone, a tagged and filtered flip phone without any internet capabilities. It does have texting, however. His school has recently made us aware that there are AI-based services that can be accessed by phone calls or texting. These services can even send images via text. Obviously, this is horrifying. What are we supposed to do? As it is, we held out as long as we possibly could before getting our son a phone. It feels like the more we do to protect our kids, the more the Yetzer Hara pops up, and with something even more innovative and enticing. How could we shield our kids from this? And how could we be mechanech them to be safe in today's frightening day and age?
So I have to be Maidel MS. I did not write this email, this message. I do have an 11th grade son.
Oh, really?
Who recently got his first phone. It's tagged, it's filtered, it's a flip phone without internet capabilities. It does have, literally, it sounds like. So, Ozzy, this one's for you. My 11th grade son learning in yeshiva, and the yeshiva recently was struggling what to do with this sugya. So it's funny because, but it usually takes a few days from when the episode is recorded until it goes live, until we drop it. It could be by then the whole world will have changed, right?
Right.
The world of AI is a rapidly, changing. It's a brand new world for all of us. I know that recently we had a meeting of Manalim, right? And this AI came up And the response was, the 35 of us on this Zoom call was, I don't know. Right? That was basically the response. So
Rabbi, maybe take a moment and just
yeah.
explain the technology, because not everyone is holding in 11th grade phones and AI and what that means. So,
Right.
can you take a moment just explain what this parent is referring to in terms of even a flip phone has a vulnerability? Just
So I'll
tell people
explain to
what
the
that
best of
means.
my knowledge. I'm not a techie, but to the best of my knowledge, there are two potential pitfalls of a non-internet tagged, beautiful phone, wonderful phone. I mean, assuming as beautiful as phones can be. And that is, number one is that AI has call-in numbers. And you could call in these numbers and really ask any question in the world, whether it's ChatGPT, any question in the world. Now, they do have their own internal filter as of today. They are debating that, apparently, of whether taking off the filter. If that happens,
That's the ChatGPT brand.
their own filter, not a
Right.
tag filter, which obviously
Right.
their filter is not a
No, what I
yeshivish
mean is there
level
are
of filter.
multiple AI-based call-in numbers besides ChatGPT brand.
Right, but I think the AI mothership, whatever that means, AI in general has some sort of filter. I think maybe by law, I don't know. But as of now, but the filter that it's on is definitely not a filter that would suffice in any of our homes. So challenge number one is your son can call any number, whatever these numbers are, and everyone knows them. I don't, but I imagine every boy does if they want to. And they could ask it any question. You could ask it the weather. And if you're having a fight with your friend over, I don't know, who won the World Series in 1986, and you're not a Met fan and you don't know it's the Mets, you could ask it that.
Harold Strawberry.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
But obviously you could ask it any question, which
Like
is concerned.
who else?
Which is concerned. They beat Houston actually in '86.
Oh, really?
New York beat Houston.
Or-
Yes.
I wasn't here yet. It's okay.
So, as a matter of fact, small anecdote. This is before AI. So just before AI, last year, I was talking to a bunch of yeshiva guys, 11th graders, and these guys said, "Hey, we follow sports in yeshiva. Good guys." And I said, "How?" And they said, "Well, we usually listen to like the ninth inning of every night." And I said, "After night it." I said, "How do you do it?" Like, what do you mean? There's a phone number. And I said, "What phone number?" And his last name starts with an H. I'm not going to give any other information, but he told me about this phone number. And he's like, "What do you mean? 732 extension 487353. It's basically, it's a guy in Lakewood who hacked the system, and you could dial in like those that are my age,
that's amazing.
and would tell me to try to get the scores.
Right.
This is basically you call in a phone number, and it hooks you up, depending on what number you press and what team you are, to any game. Like
And it's a yeshivish thing, or just that they copped out to do it?
6 months ago, it was the yeshivish thing. It was a 732 phone number.
That's unbelievable.
So some guy in the coffee room in BMG.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh.
So
Wow.
so that was,
Okay.
but that's
Right. This
level.
is much more than that.
This is obviously on a certain level of limitlessness. Now there is this, I think, a little bit of hysteria about bots and robots and relationships. You can call and get friends with AI. I did polling with a lot of the Yeshiva Bachim that I know, my staff in camp, and they all laughed at this concern. As anyone who is doing that has maybe stronger issues, but definitely there's a phone number that you can call to with your own phone. That's level one. I think the more immediate, frightening concern was that if your phone has the ability to text pictures, then you can text AI, make a picture of me, whatever, at a baseball game. And you send a picture of your face, and it will give you choices of, do you want to be strong? Do you want to be skinny? Right? Like that. So obviously you can use your imagination. Who the me is, you can make up anything you are. And the pretus that this just that's basically on your phone, on every phone that has the ability to text pictures. That's the legitimate, real fear of that. My son, who I have this kosher phone, and really they can do anything they want with it. Again, it's quote unquote filtered, but it's not a filter that any of us would allow in our home. So that's real legitimate concern.
That's just to educate everybody.
That's
so
a
this
small
parent is
education. I'm probably
saying-
making some mistakes. I'm probably not saying it properly, and people. But that's debate. I have 3 bachrim in my house, 3 boys that all have filtered phones, and that seems to be the concern.
Okay.
So the question is, what do we do about it, right? So to go ahead and say, something you can never touch, when everyone's home for the Hanukkah party, and you're making these funny, whether it's a gramin through AI your parents are doing, or obviously at work, or it's just here. And I'm not explaining that technology doesn't matter, but it's here and it's not going anywhere, but it doesn't belong in our yeshivas. I will just share with you what my son's Rebbe said. and that is, I'm just gonna, I guess, quote him, and that is of Shimi Epstein. His father's of Kalman Epstein, Rosh Yeshiva of Shara Torah. So Shara Torah found out about the new AI technology, collected all the phones in yeshiva, and are trying to filter it. Now, there's a new phone trying to come out that automatically blocks and continuously blocks every single new AI phone number, and that doesn't allow text message for pictures. They're trying to. They collected all the phones, and he in the shir. These are Beis Medrash guys. These are not ninth graders. He said, and I'm just quoting my son. I'm hoping I'm saying it right. He said, "I am not saying there is no place in the world for AI. It's technology. Like every technology, it can be used for very good. It can be used for very bad. Many of you will use it in your life as you get older, but a yeshiva is different. Yeshiva is a teva, and our standards are different. And we're trying to eliminate every single possible nisayon for you here in yeshiva. And for that reason, we can't have something that has potential good in it, but it's too dangerous for the teva of yeshiva." That was the shmooze that were given yeshiva, and they collected all the phones, and then they're trying to figure it out like we all are. So I do think
right now the phones are under lock and key, so to speak.
So they were on the lock and key till Hanukkah. Then some of them they took off the pictures and the ability to send pictures. And ones they weren't able to, they're getting them new phones. They're busy with this, afentish, like now.
I was talking to another manal of a big yeshiva about this, is connected to our family. And they've always had a different mahalach where they have their own phones that they give the boys, and they turn on and off. They're able to turn on and off texting, so that during the Zman, they don't have texting b'chlal anyway. All right. They have phone calls, though. You could always make phone calls. So,
right.
So we were talking about it, and they were explaining to me that, like, listen, texting is not a problem because they just could turn it off.
Okay.
But the phone call part,
right. And
that's different. No.
What did your
I don't have an answer, but I'm just saying at least that half is less of an issue there. But
the question is, to this parent, we have to.
What do we tell the parent? Yeah,
we tell the parent that you have to do two things at once. You do not want to give your son a device that will force him to be Omid ben Nisayan, and we try as much as we can to limit our exposure to our bachrim and to our boys, and of course to our girls also, in what they have easy access to. And so that's, first of all, yes, you have to stay educated and stay ahead of the curve, and that's Aleph. On the other hand, or maybe at the same time, we have to work not with just the negativity of the horrors of technology and the horrors of AI, but the more that we can build the person, and the more that we can build the person from within and create strong, proud yeshiva bachrim, so then they will be able to face these nisyanis that are flying at them from, every 2 days, a different nisayon. I think 30 years ago, the concept of a cell phone, forget AI. If you would have told 30 years ago that yeshiva bachrim are going to have cell phones in Beis Medrash, and some Beis Medrash don't let, that would be crazy. You could call anyone. Anytime during the day, you could go outside, right? So a little bit of ein kol chadash tachas hashamesh, and yes, AI is a brand new frontier that's terrifying, but like everything else, we have to try to control it to the best of our ability, and at the same time, don't allow it to create the narrative, oh no, the world is, no. Teach healthy boundaries, and why are you laughing
all
at
of
me?
you who are thinking,
why are you laughing?
You're laughing. Not answering the question. They're going to write us. You're right. Right? Schoenfeld's avoiding the question. He's not answering the question. I have something to say to all of you. You're right, but it's a hard question to answer, meaning he's saying balance, seichel, chinuch, right? I mean, essentially, what are you going to say? I mean, right? Am I misreading what you're saying? It's a chinuch sandwich of all the pieces of chinuch.
It's a chinuch sandwich of all the pieces. But what I think is important to avoid is this notion of AI is the worst Yetzar of all time. Period. End of sentence. Klal Yisrael has to run away from AI. It's the reason why there's gullus. There's something that is here and part of the world and part of everyone's home. And within 2 years, and I'm not a tech guy at all, it will be in your fridge. It will be in your car.
Yeah,
right?
2 years, two months. Right. I don't think anyone thinks. I mean, it's misguided to say almost like there's no AI. It's like saying there's no electricity. I mean, it's going to be part of everything. The question is a bacher, how you balance trust versus opportunity versus the reality versus chinuch.
Right.
I thought it was ironic. I don't know if you saw one of the phones that's being, shared as a potential remedy.
called
It's called the
trust.
trust phone.
I
But I was
I
thinking,
guessed it.
yeah, I was thinking
I
that's
think
an
it
interesting
might stand
name.
for something. I might stand for something,
Okay,
but yeah, that is quite
I thought
ironic.
that was a funny name. Not that.
But
Listen,
yeah, but
uh,
ain't other nemen alatz,
yeah, I'm not saying anything. It's
you
just
know,
fun.
trust la rise and ain't right. Ad yoy
Yeah,
moisei, so
yeah,
we're not supposed to trust
100%,
ourselves
100%.
in these sugyas, and we're supposed to do the best we can. Yeah, that's
Okay, let's move on.
all right. Question number 2. Dear TLC, I have a question for the learning curve. I really enjoy listening to each episode. Thank you for putting them out. That's not the question.
Okay, thank you.
A little bit of a long one, but let's see if you can
That doesn't
pay
even sound
attention.
like a butt. That sounds like a real,
No,
a
it's a
real.
way for us. It's a way to get us to read it. So, what is a parent's responsibility when it comes to giving a consequence to a child at home for a behavior that occurred in school? I believe that a child's behavior at school should be dealt with at school, and behavior at home should be dealt with at home. The school has asked me to take away at-home privileges for in-school behavior, but I'm uncomfortable that as we have our own behaviors we are dealing with at home. Should parents even have discussions about in-school behaviors, or should we try to keep things separate so my child doesn't feel like he is coming home to be reprimanded each day by his parents? And on the other hand, should we be giving rewards for in-school behavior, or should that be provided, or I guess, should we at home be giving rewards for in-school behavior, or should that be provided in school? School is not an easy place to be for my child, and I sometimes wonder if home and school should even be kept more separate.
That's a good one. That's a lot of layers there. That's a very good question. Okay.
Okay,
And
now
I
to a spotlight.
Yeah, and now I have to answer it in layers. So the first layer that comes to mind is your home needs to be a more loving, more accepting, a safer place than school, and that should be for sure. So the idea, I actually was just talking to someone who had a very rough childhood. He goes like, they hit him in school, and then he came home and he got hit for being hit in school, and like,
Right.
no. So it's not that. But the alternative of saying that what happens in school and we don't have anything to do with it, I think is taking it a little too far. I think that parents have a role and a responsibility and an opportunity to process what's going on in their child's life. It's not about beating them up. It's about what's going on. Let's talk about it. Let's figure it out. How can I help you? Just to say, oh, you got suspended. Well, that happens in school. Let's just leave that. I think that's irresponsible. A parent has to say, what's going on? Why is that happening? I don't know if you also need to then come up with consequences at home. I guess if you feel the kid's not taking it seriously, maybe, but assuming that the consequence in school is significant, I don't know that you dafka need to come with consequences, but to ignore it and not have conversations about it, I think is a lost opportunity of chinuch.
So I feel strongly that, and this has happened, Baruch Hashem, because we don't like when the kids, get in trouble. But I would say Baruch Hashem, that when there is a serious consequence in yeshiva and I speak to the parents, they'll ask me, which to me is the most important piece that I think is almost missing. There should be a partnership and a real working partnership between the yeshiva and the parents. Hey, my son just got in trouble. Whoa, what do you want to do to make home? Do you want, like, for my son, usually he's allowed one, tonight is pizza night. He gets extra pizza. Should I? And depending on the scenario of what message I want the parents to give or what I want the kid to feel, sometimes I'll tell the parent, like I'll tell you, bothered in yeshiva, kid got sent home middle of the day. And his parents pick him up right now. I don't know, he threw a snowball at the teacher, right? Let's say. Parent picks him up, takes him to have ice cream, right? So I don't think that's what I mean. It's Tuesday. We go out for ice cream on Tuesday. No, I think there's supposed to be an understanding that the school and the parents work together. And if you have a strong relationship with the yeshiva, if you don't have a strong relationship with the yeshiva, then probably you don't trust. It sounds from this parent that
Right.
whatever happens in yeshiva, that's their deal.
Right.
I can't tell you I agree with it. They want to take away his recess or what, I don't know, probably something bigger than that. They want to give him a detention. Let's say it could be the classic example. You get detention for cutting class or being chutzpahdik after too many times when he comes home from school. I would hope that if you have a proper functioning and working and healthy relationship with the yeshiva, then you're going to sit down with the manal or talk to the manal and say, hey, when he comes home tonight. And the answer is, sometimes I have had parents that I have said, we beat him up pretty good in yeshiva, obviously figuratively speaking today. I think he got the message. Matter of fact, when he left my office, I gave him a little fist bump, even though he got detention. And I'll do that often. A kid will get in my office for a serious reason, and I'll end off with some type of, hey, by the way, one more question. nice, you're playing football at recess today. You're the quarterback. I could just as if letting you know that you're not
Also
puzzling my
know
eyes. And I'll tell the parent, hey, I think he got enough. And then the other times I'll tell the parent, I think you have to talk to Shlomi, because at the end of the day, if this keeps happening, I don't like at all.
This parent said they want me to consequence, if I heard correctly. The school is asking me to do more consequences at home.
Yeah.
Right?
So to me, I can understand that telling a parent whose kid is doing no work, right? No work in school. None. Let's say he's flunking and we feel that he's flunking and he should be held accountable. And I tell the parents, listen, he's allowed video games on Sunday nights, not this week Sunday nights, no video games, and he's studying again for that math test. Now,
I have a hard time with that. I mean, I don't, it pains me to argue with you. Pains me. But I don't know if that's the role of the school. They might say to the parent,
but it's not a role of me mandating. That's what I'm saying. It's me talking to the parent and saying, hey, by the way, and it's not even by the way, this is maybe the relationship that we work hard to attain in our yeshiva. I'll get asked by the parent, hey, Rabbi Schoenfeld, I know he missed his math test, and what should I do tonight about his PS4?
Well, that would be different.
I'm not talking about mandating, calling
up
the parent.
That's what it sounds like from the question, that they called up the parents and you better consequence. No, you're right. The parent should say back, which I appreciate.
Does it bother you when a kid? What's that, my Garfield? Does it bother you when a kid is suspended for egregious, and he's suspended, and you send him home? Can't, right? And then you're walking outside to make to go to the girls' school 3 blocks away from you, and you see him in the pizza store with his mother having ice cream. Does that bother you?
It depends if I know the situation. I could see a scenario where that would be appropriate. It really depends.
Could you see a scenario where it would not be appropriate?
Yes, but I would hope that the goal is to fix this behavior and to address the child, right? So I would hope that the parent would say to the school or say to themselves, what could we do as a family? What does this child need to support that it will change? Maybe he needs a nachapach, figuratively, or maybe he needs to trip to the ice cream with his mother. I mean, sometimes that's what you need. That's not always inappropriate. So my point is, I think the school and the parents have to be in sync that we're trying to help this child overcome it. But there are different roles at different times. And I don't know that the school should be mandating. They should be working together.
My first year as Manal, I had a child with a tough family situation. Very tough. He kicked a teacher. That's pretty bad, right? I sent him home. 10 o'clock in the morning, I sent him home. And it was a child with enough of a tough background that before I suspended him, I called Rebbe Bender to ask him whether I should. Okay. And he said yes. So kicked the teacher, I sent him home. It was a Wednesday. Every Wednesday at 1 o'clock, I played Stratego with this boy in my office. That was our bonding time. I didn't let him win. Come on, I'm not that nice. But he was because he loves Stratego. So I suspended him. I suspended him. Yeah, we would save. And then 3 hours later, I knocked on his door with a box of Stratego to play Stratego with.
Wow.
My point is that of course, every case is different, blah, blah, blah. But I would hope that if you have a strong relationship with the school, then there's a trust both ways. But there's no such thing as a school just telling a parent. Again, I shouldn't say no such thing. In a healthy relationship, the school won't tell a parent, well, we punished him in school, please punish him at home also. There would be that conversation of your son has to hear the same message. That's, I think, school's concern, is that parents ignore the messaging that we're trying to give. And if I'm telling you, it's so important for your son to have this and this message, and then you don't give it at home, that would bother me as a
yeshiva. It comes down to trust. I've had situations where, my children have been in environments where I don't necessarily trust the judgment of the adult. And in that case, it's very important to provide support to your child. I'm so sorry that teacher or administrator mistreated you.
Yeah, but that's not this child. This child is, right? This child is the school. Right? You're saying that the school punished the kid. The parents are saying, why should I punish him at home also? The answer is, of course you shouldn't, unless it's part of the process. Right. But then you should never give a kid a punishment unless it's part of the process.
As a general rule, would you assume that usually parents need to come down strong at home or not?
As a general rule, I would hope that if something really happens in school that deserves a serious enough consequence, that the parents are told about it, right, and are spoken to, then when the kid comes home, the kid should not feel that his parents don't care. I'm not saying that they don't have to give him another consequence, but no, here's the but. The but is that they have to unpack and explain the real trouble that he got
Right.
in and why that's not okay and yada.
100%.
But if part of the and this is why it's so important again to have that relationship with yeshiva. If part of the process is that there's things that are going on at home that are inhibiting this, and the school's like, by the way, when he comes at home tonight, he cannot again play a video game because the last 3 times that happened, he failed the test on purpose. And then, if you trust the yeshiva, then it's all part. Then it's kula misa richti, as the Gemara Makkah says. But
I hear. Okay, I think we're closer, but it's fine. I think it's okay. I think we've done that justice. And the bottom line is that parents and the school ideally should be working in sync and supporting each other. Just one little anecdote as we get ready for our next guest. Just share it because it was a positive thing for me. And I was a kid who got in a little trouble, as we've discussed. Nothing horrible, but there were times when conversations had to be had between me and my parents. And my father had a very interesting technique that worked for me as a kid. We would go into my room and he would lie on my bed and I wouldn't be on the bed. I'd be on the floor. We're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4-year-old, like, I don't know. I used to play games. I don't remember why.
Okay. You're remembering things that happened when you were 4 years old. Is that what's happening right now?
No, I meant 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade, 4th grade.
Like, wow, I got very excited.
Yeah, the younger grades. Anyway, sorry about that. Anyway, he would turn off the lights. So I didn't have to face him. It wasn't like embarrassing. I don't know how to explain it. It was dark. And he would say, let's talk about what happened today. And we would talk about it. But because it was dark, it was so much easier for me. It was an interesting technique. It was easier for me to talk about it without feeling like attacked. And so I remember it happened a few times, but the conversations were much more, I didn't have to be as defensive. I just remember that. So, just putting it out there, when we're talking about what happened in school and getting in trouble, I'm just reminded of that technique. That sometimes when a child feels like they're attacked at school and they come home and they're attacked at home, it could put them into this defensive mode and not really open them up. So
beautiful.
Interesting thought from my father.
Beautiful. And now we move on to the spotlight question. And it is our covet to welcome Rabbi Sonnenschein from Waterbury, Connecticut, to the Learning Curve. Rabbi Sonnenschein is the Rav of Bnei Shalom in Waterbury. He's the Benahal of Beis Medrash LaTalmud in Queens, otherwise known as Landers, in Queens. And he might not know this, but he's a Rebbe to hundreds and hundreds of Yeshiva Bachrim who listen to his shiurim. My sons are guilty as charged and are Talmidim through, shiurim from the Zayt. So,
my sons are also Talmidim Shtekol through Camp Shoresh, Camp Heller. We've all benefited from my sunshine. I'm thrilled to be able to meet you. So this is very exciting.
I'm very much looking forward. Thank you so much.
I'm going to start with the question that, we have here about a gem of a daughter, and we'll use that as a stepping stone to what we want to talk about. So my gem of a daughter was just rejected from seminary. She was set out on going. She did everything right her whole life. She got great grades, has amazing midos, does so much chesed, and her teachers love her. And now she's slapped in the face and is told that even that wasn't enough. She literally followed the recipe. Be a good girl, follow the rules, do what you're told, and you'll get a good seminary and you'll get a good shidduch. Why is it okay that schools have decided to put everyone in a box, then shrink that box so small that unless you're literally perfect, you don't fit? Whoa. That's heavy.
Yeah. Wow. You could hear the pain in the question.
You sure can.
Wow. And this is not, this type of thing with not getting into seminary, I guess could apply to not getting into yeshiva.
Sure.
To other things as well.
Like camp. I have to tread very carefully. I'll get those. I'll let you speak first, and then I'll discuss some of my challenges.
What I find as a parent that, it's hard for us to watch our kids go through things. But I find that for some reason, I don't know if you have this experience, it's harder for me to watch my kids go through emotional pain than even physical pain. It's just hard to watch a child deal with rejection. It's torture for the parents. And I think it's important to realize that there are really 2 questions here. There's how do I deal with the rejection? And there's now what do I do for my daughter? I don't think, unless I'm misunderstanding, I don't think we're here to change the system. I think we're here to talk about chinuch and how we could be the best parents that we could be to daughters or sons who are in a system that sometimes part of it is that there's rejection. I think it's very important because this really goes more than just who's in pain. A parent that's child is rejected, a lot of times it's not the child's rejection that's on the table here, it's the parent's rejection. The parent, my daughter was rejected. And a lot of times, Rabbi Schoenfeld, you probably have dealt with this, there's like an incredible anger. Like, how could it be that you rejected my child?
So I have to, anyone listening to this who, I'm going to try to tread this very carefully. Yes, it really, in my camp, and Baruch Hashem, I have a camp that gets filled quickly, and people try to get in, and sometimes they don't, and sometimes even they were in camp the last year, and we think it's not the right fit for them, and that conversation never goes well. There's no such thing as a good reason, and I'm not here to push away. I'm here to. The most uncomfortable moments for me are taking that phone call from a parent. Why didn't you take my son? And how dare you not take my son? And my son now has to face the fact that 3 of his friends got in, and I don't have easy answers. We try the best in the world of chinuch to make the best decisions we can. But yes, that is it's a hurt parent, and I don't have what to say to them. I don't have good answers to them, which is why you're on.
Yeah. But not, let me just, in terms of the question, I think that the first thing this parent needs to do is to get a hold of themselves. I don't mean this in a negative way. I know what it's like. I've had it with yeshivas. I've had it with different things that my children didn't get into things. And I think the first thing is I have to take stock of where am I going to make the right decisions here? So some parents are more powerful than others, so then they could start knocking the doors down. Some parents, even if they can't start knocking the doors down, they can start spreading who knows what about a place, like all these kind of things. And sometimes these types of things come from this inner fury that's not the insecurity of the child. I've had situations where the child is begging the parents, leave it alone. I didn't get in. It's fine. I'll go somewhere else. But the parents don't want to let it go. And I'm not saying this in a critical way. I understand that it's very hard. And, this mother, it sounds like a mother wrote it, not a father.
You see, Rabbi Garfield? We always argue about these type of emails, who's writing it. But yes.
It sounds like a mother's email. But this email, I'm here, like, she did everything right. She did it, I'm hearing a lot of the mothers saying, I did everything right. I sent her to Beis Yaakov. I raised her the right way. I did everything right. And then the Olam HaTorah didn't accept her. And that needs to be dealt with mitzad the person, this mommy herself, who's suffering both mitzad her pain of watching her child in pain and mitzad her own feeling of rejection. That needs to be dealt with.
But how about the notion, whether it's, again, a shidduch, whether it's a seminary, mesifta, a camp, that kids don't get in for the darndest reasons, for nothing. On the interview for the seminary, I hope I'm not going to trouble for this. My sister, who now, Baruch Hashem, is a principal, has a chashuva family. This is 35 years ago. She applied to a seminary, and they didn't want to take her because she had curly hair. Now, she happens to have curly hair. Now, Baruch Hashem, she got married, so her hair became straight after she got married. But it's called the sheitel. But in other words, the look on an interview, we found out, that the smallest little details that are meaningless, and are we as a tzibur of mechanchim, yeshivas, shidduchim, seminars, some of these are huge tents. Are we too judgmental and way too picky?
Well, what's the reason for the curly hair? Why is that? I'm
No,
sorry.
it's not.
I'm a real out-of-towner. What's the issue with curly hair?
Yeah, she called my sister up. It's not a tzura of a Beis Yaakov girl.
But what does that mean? That's like saying, what does that mean? Blue eyes.
I don't want to explain. I'm laughing because it was very curly hair. So she kept it maybe a little.
Why didn't you mention that?
So she kept it maybe a little short because I don't know. I was 10. She kept it a little short because she didn't want it. It was long, was too hard.
Okay, but I have a big kasha on you. I have a big kasha before we go on. It sounds like she ended up going to that seminar. It sounds like you said they almost didn't take her, but they ended up taking her and she went. Why would she go to an ignorant seminary?
Because my parents knocked down every door and refused to take no for an answer.
But why go to a seminary that's run by a bunch of nudniks?
Because it was the best for shidduchim. What do you mean?
Okay, I yield the floor back.
You're really shifting the question now to the moistus.
Right. I guess because the mother is blaming the moistus. So we could, right? The question is, are the moistus to blame? And
it's very hard to say. this is going on in all of these areas, getting into Mesiftas, which I know you've had a podcast about, all these things that, in general, overall, I think everyone's trying to make it. Everyone's trying to make it. Everyone has parents that they have to answer to. It's very hard to say a broad swath that people are being too makbid, and it's hard to say that.
Where does that leave you? Okay, whatever.
Yeah,
You still have to deal with your daughter.
it's a very tough thing. I mean,
Yeah.
and the Bechlala sugya, what happens to the kids that don't get into schools, which is a very painful sugya. And and there's a balance here. Like what you're touching is a very explosive thing, because on the one hand, we do have to create a certain broadness. I want to tell you something. I've been in Waterbury for 26 years. Okay, but right before I came to Waterbury, my daughter was supposed to go to kindergarten, not in Waterbury. We hadn't even heard of Waterbury, and we were applying for a school for her. And
Did she have curly hair?
she did not have curly hair. She did not have curly hair, and she was the cutest 3-year-old. And we were looking into schools for her, and I was learning in Kollel, and we didn't know that it would not be relevant because she's going to end up the next year with 4 other girls in her class in some, classroom in Waterbury, Connecticut. But so I applied to 2 schools, and one school was a school where every single girl in the class's father is in Klei Kodesh or Kollel, in some kind of Klei Kodesh. And the other school was a school where a nice chelik of it was Klei Kodesh, but a lot of it was very nice families of doctors, lawyers, accountants, construction, all the other stuff. And I decided to send it to the second one, even though I was in Kollel. But I told myself, I was very young, maybe I was crazy, but I told myself, school is supposed to be a preparation for life. And life is not all about people that are 100,000% like you. Why not send her to a school if the hashkafas are strong and the teachers are strong, that there's a wide variety of bnei Torah that are serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu properly, but not every single one's father has this chus to be learning Torah or teaching Torah full time. And I made that decision, and I never ended up having to act on it. I mean, in Waterbury, we only have one school, so I guess I did act on it.
Right.
But so what you're saying about us being too makpid, it's a societal thing. That's true. It's true that we have so many schools and we have so many different styles. And, the not yeshivish world looks at yeshivish. But in the yeshivish world, we have 50 different flavors.
Right.
And menalim of mesiftas, of elementary schools, of camps, of menalos, of seminaries, they have these indicators, and I can't even blame them. This kind of shoes means this. This kind of hairstyle means that. This kind of watch means this. And I don't know that there's someone to point to blame for this. It's definitely a painful byproduct of the incredible, huge kahila that we have and the fact that people like to stick together. And there is a certain fear of putting my child in a place that's broader than I am. There's a certain fear of that. And I understand that fear. There's 2 sides to that.
Rabbi Sonnenschein, you deal with a lot. Your miyaitz, a lot of people. And I heard in your initial response, tell me if I'm misreading, that you really think that this idea of rejection, generally speaking, is a parent issue, not a child issue. When the parent says, and I've had parents say, literally the sentence, if you don't take my son into your camp, I don't know how I'm going to be able, I didn't tell him yet, and this is camp, right? So, which I think my camp is wonderful, but it's camp. It's not a shidduch, right? And I haven't told my son yet because I don't know how he will handle it. I don't know if, it's going to be devastating for him. I'm hearing, and you, correct me if I'm wrong, that you think that a huge chilek of that is projection.
Yeah, I mean, it's very uncomfortable to tell our kids uncomfortable things and things that will be painful for them. When you have to tell your daughter the shadchan said no, it's also, I've been there. It's very painful. It's very hard. But
so how do we do it?
Let me say this, that there are kids that would fall apart from such a thing. It's true. But I believe that if a kid will look, I'm just gonna be honest here. You wanted me, so I'm gonna tell you what I think. I think that if a kid will fall apart from something like that, something was missing before. And I think that all of us need to be raising children that have a certain confidence and know that the people that love them respect them and see their milas, so that even if a school didn't see why this, wonderful girl is appropriate for this seminary, that she could be disappointed, she could be horrified that she's not going to be with her friends. There are a lot of pieces of that, but that it won't break her. That's what I'm pushing back on. I think that, like, we have to, in other words, let me give you a few points. Let me explain what I mean. Number one, if I haven't raised a child where I'm complimenting them and I'm pointing out specifically the miles in them that I appreciate, that means that if I have different children, I don't say the same thing to each one. And this is my amazing cook, and this is my amazing balas midas, and this is my amazing davener. So let me just tell you, like, this past Shabbos Chanukah was my daughter's bas mitzvah. On Matzah Shabbos, we got the family together, and we sat around the table to Malava Malka. This is what I did. I said, just on the spot, I said, I want to go around the table, and I want everyone to say just one brief thing that they admire about Hindi. It was such a nice thing. Everyone said, few people mention that she's super honest. If she has a bad day in school and you ask her how her day was, she says, bad. And today I asked her how her day was, and with a big smile on her face, she said, bad. And different things came out. My daughter-in-law said that from the time she joined the family, she admired how Hindi davens, things like that. But I think, I'm just giving an example. Kids need to grow up, not just being told I love you, and not just being told you're amazing, you're the best, you're 100%, you're the king, all these compliments. They need to be told what? You're an amazing listener. You're things like that. I think that builds a certain muscle inside a kid that if they're rejected, there's already a lot there. And the other thing is, and this is something I've had to explain to kids, and I would tell parents to I would tell that mother to sit down with her daughter and explain this to her. Both of you being in chinuch could attest to this, that this is true. There are different measuring sticks for people. When you are a camp director and someone comes to apply to the camp, you're looking for different things than a Mesifta Menal is looking for.
Right.
Different things than a person who's getting a job. There's different things. So when you're going to seminary, let's say, they want to see how her social skills are, how intelligent she is, how, maybe even how deep she is. But there are other measuring sticks that we're not looking at. Like I was talking to a boy in a Beis Medrash who was feeling like he wasn't fitting into his Beis Medrash. And I realized it's because he's a super emotionally intelligent, thoughtful, kid. He lives in his own emotional, thoughtful world. Around the guys, nobody's saying, oh, Ruvain, he's really emotionally sensitive. That even in Beis Medrash, but his wife is going to be the luckiest wife of anyone in that yeshiva. So it's important to explain to our kids, they didn't reject you. They have certain measuring sticks, and it wasn't right for them. But they don't know what an incredible sister you are. They don't know what a balas achrayus you are. They don't know what a davener you are. And that's not their job to know. This is what Hashem, this is where Hashem put you. You didn't get into that seminary, but it's not a testament on you. No. And as a camp director, I'm sure that you could back me up on this, that when you reject a child, by no means is your intention to reject a child.
Chas v'shalom, 100%. Yeah.
And that needs to be spoken out.
We do. We try, right. And to your point,
explain it to the children.
Yeah.
And it can't start then. It has to be something that's ingrained. And the last point, if I could just say one other thing, is that, and this does get back a little bit to our society, a little bit. If I raise my children that the badges that I hope that I wear on my lapel are that I went to Brisk, or I went to this seminary, or I went to this, and that's what I carry with me. And then my child doesn't get into those places, so then I destroyed my child. But if I raise my children that everyone's here on a journey to serve Hashem, my children are all over the map in different yeshivas. If I gave you the list, you would be like, whoa, And I love and deeply respect each of them, deeply, and they know it. And some of them are much stronger in learning than others, and they're going to hear this podcast, by the way.
So will Hindi. By the way, so will Hindi.
So I'm not hiding from them. Some of them, I have some children that are powerful in learning. I have other children that aren't as powerful in learning, but they're super powerful in other areas. And I try, at least to the limited ability Hashem gave me, to give over to each of them. That's their hatzlacha. I had a son that was struggling, and 2 years ago I brought him to Eretz Yisrael, and he was a Mesifta age, really having a hard time. And it was like the middle of the Zman, and I brought him to my Rosh Hashiva, to Rabbi and David in Eretz Yisrael, and I introduced him, and I said, my son is here with me. I brought him to Eretz Yisrael because he's been going through a difficult time, and he's such a warrior to Steig that I wanted to bring him to Eretz Yisrael. And I saw my Rosh Hashiva looked at my son. He's like, did you hear what your father just called you? That moment was, I think it's also like if it has to be the label, the moisid, the title, the type, if we raise our children, that's what's important. That's what's so super important to us. Then we're going to be in trouble when our child doesn't get into a place like that, because we raised them that's everything. But we have to raise them with other values. I don't even think what I'm saying is so controversial.
Well, let me try to help you understand why it might be.
That's what Rebbe here for, ladies and gentlemen.
That's my job. The word that you're talking about is resilience, right? Building kids with a level of resilience that they could deal with life's troubles and foibles and not get rejections and stuff like that. And there's this constant dialogue going on in the world of chinuch between setting standards, making expectations, pushing kids higher, holding them high, saying that we strive for excellence, and in contrary, saying we love you just the way you are. You Zusha yourself up just fine, Don't do a thing more. Don't do anything more. And I think that's where I would maybe push back and try to understand what you're saying better, because you're saying we go say Hindi, you're so special. Does that really build resilience? Does that really teach Hindi to, take care of life's troubles? Shouldn't we say, Hindi, you stink, and then she'll really be built up? Obviously we wouldn't do that, but you know what I mean? So are we building kids that are just too soft and can't handle life? I mean, our kids are so soft today. One little thing, we take care of it for them.
I have a friend who said that a great line. He said, it used to be the helicopter mom, right? He said, we don't have any helicopter moms. We have snowplow moms. And that they don't care who they're blocking in, right? They don't care whose mirror they're taking off. The second anything happens to their child, they snowplow their way in.
They say Chaim Brisk didn't say anything nice, he whatever, that didn't express love and all this stuff. That's an extreme, okay? But are we too soft? Are we making this problem ourselves because we're so scared that our child might go off the derech or something?
I think that's an important conversation. I don't think it has to do with this conversation. In other words, I think that, and we should talk about that, but I think that this type of teaching my child to understand who they are, like the Balei Musar say, that it's bad if a person doesn't know their chesroinus, but it's even worse if they don't know their milas. Right. Our kids have to know their milas, and they have to be given milas and values that are important. You're bringing up a little bit of I understand that it's a very related topic, but you're bringing up this thing, like in today's society, we're so affirming everyone, and we're so being, accepting, and we're so, being loving to everyone where they're at, that are we just creating a world where you're doing nothing? And the truth is that it's a very serious, maybe this is the tough issue of our generation in some way, in terms of the chinuch. We have a lot of issues, but just in the interaction, it's where we used to have a very strong chinuch, and then we kind of shifted over, and I think we're struggling to find ourselves a little bit.
So I heard in your presentation, and maybe I misheard, but I heard someone saying that wherever my kids go to yeshiva, I'll be happy, and that's okay. Which means that when the kid was young, let's say 7 years old, and he was saying, "What are my she'ifas for?" Shifas, Brisk, Schmith. We don't care if you go to Brisk or if you go to whatever the opposite of that is, no place name, We're happy, we love you. So how does that play into it?
I'm happy that you brought that up. I'm happy that you brought that up, because if you heard that in what I said, probably other people will also. So I appreciate that.
I didn't hear that in what you said, by the way. So I'm just letting you know. I think most people didn't, but Rebbe Garfeld's entitled to his own opinion.
He wants to bring it out. But because, and I'll tell you the difference, and it really is fundamental. I really am happy that you're bringing it out, because it's very important. I am not happy wherever my kids go. Absolutely not. I'm not happy wherever they go. I'm happy when they go to the place that's right for them. And that's a big difference. Different kids have different abilities, different challenges, and have to surmount different things. I happen to have right now a son in Brisk. by the way.
Aha.
I hate sacrifice.
Very
It
proud
should
of
say it
you.
on your
Rabbi
lapel, Rabbi
Sonnenschein,
Sonnenschein.
I'm very proud of you and the Rebbitzin.
Don't say that. I want to tell you something. I have different children in different places. When my son got into Brisk, I sat down with my wife and I said, we're as proud of him as we are of every one of our children for being in the place that they belong to be. I'm not buying into that culture. My son got into Brisk. Had he not gone to Brisk, that would have been a disappointment for all of us because he belongs there.
Now, what happens if he didn't get into Brisk?
We were very worried for him. That would have been very painful for him. And I spent a lot of time on the phone with him talking about that. You should know. We discussed that, and we discussed exactly some of this conversation. We discussed with him to accept that's the Ratzon Hashem, and to know that it's not paga v'naga to his greatness and learning, and so on and so forth. My point is that it's, and this is a big deal. Gary Garfield, I want to tell you an incident. I actually said this, or you're talking about your children. I said this over once in a Q&A. That, so this son that I brought to Eretz Yisrael, this one that was struggling, so we used the warrior, my warrior.
Yeah.
So we used to have this back and forth when it was hard for him to get up. Now he was struggling with anxiety and so on. It was really hard to get up. So we used to have this thing and I would say, okay, get up right now. And he would say, and any parent is familiar with this, he would say, I can't. This is exactly what Rabbi Garfield, what you brought up. It's right here. I was like, what do you mean you can't? You have 2 feet, get up. And he would say, I can't get up. I'm telling you, I can't get up. And I feel like saying, if I put a gun to your head, you would get up. So you can. And this is a back and forth that my son and I, and by the way, when I said this over by Q&A, my son was sitting there.
Wow.
He got up and joined the conversation.
Was that, you said the gun line to him?
I didn't say it. That could be
In
in
the moment.
schmoozing. I said it. I wouldn't like that.
Right.
And we had this tug of war. We did have this tug of war back and forth. How much can I understand what his limit is and how much to push him? And I want to tell you something, and that's Rabbi Garfield. This is why I'm very sensitive to what you said. If we don't push our children where we should, it's not just that we're failing them. They are going to come back to us with tinus. They're going to come back when they're 30 years old and they can't hold a job and they can't learn a Tosfos. They're going to say, where were you when I was a smart young kid and you weren't pushing me to learn? Kids of course, need to be told to learn and need to be encouraged the right way and so on. Nobody should misunderstand me, the right way with the right chizuk, etc., etc. But of course, there needs to be boundaries and gedorim, and they have to, and so on. I mean, look at the lashonis of the Rambam and so on. It's very strong. On the other hand, we also have to really understand our children and know what the limits are. And sometimes, sometimes a father and mother will go at it about this. My wife and I have done this many times. And we've had back and forth, where one of us is taking the more hard line, get that kid out of bed. And the other one is like, oh, I'm the Waterbury one. I'm usually the one saying, oh, let's understand him. But between the two of us, and we've gone for hadracha also, ein chavush mater atzmai mibesa asurim. We've gone to ask other people eitzes as well. And I'm not just talking about my warrior. They're all warriors. I have a son in Mesifta, going through his things. And Baruch Hashem, he's a mitzuyan and he's doing great. But each one has their challenges. And I think this is a kilkul in our generation. That's why I'm sorry, I'm excited. You're going to have to cut me off at some point because we live in a world of either or. Either I'm sitting with long hair and a guitar and just going on and on all day, not doing anything. Or I'm sitting over a Gemara the entire day, this and that. If someone sings a nigga, I'm like, Brittle Torah. Those are my 2 choices. There has to be such a thing as carrying both tzaddim, where to the extent that I could push, I want my children to strive for excellence. I want them to be the top of their game, but I want them to be the top of their game. And when they're doing their best with the kaiches Hashem gave them, I want them to truly feel accepted and proud of themselves. And ultimately, even if I think they could do better and they don't, ultimately they have to know always that I love them and accept them. But that's part of the tug of war of chinuch, is that I have to try to push them to excel. Am I?
It's right on. Going back to what you said about the parents who are giving these messages, it takes a lot of security, all right, in your own religious stature, beard length, all the things you need to be able to say that I'm okay with my kid, regardless of where they go, as long as they're fulfilling where they need to be. that's hard. That's a hard message. It's a nuanced message and a hard message. And, for a Rav or a mechanich or whatever, to say that, and I also feel that way. And I have kids also in a wide spectrum. We could compare notes whose spectrum is wider at a different time. But
maybe we should ask Rabbi Sonnenschein for his 8th grade report card, Rabbi Garfield.
Oh, no, I'm sure I outdo him on that. But anyway, we could say that, but I think that people who are softer don't have that level of confidence. It's a really hard thing to do.
Yeah, it's very hard. I'm gonna say something strong, and then I'll get softer. Okay,
go for
it. It's very hard, but your children's lives depend on it.
Right.
That's first of all. But parents shouldn't feel like they're alone. They should reach out to the mechanchim, to their rabbeim, to their rabbanim, and they should get those people that could encourage them to stand strong. We have to advocate for our kids, to our kids, and for our kids. That as long as they're building themselves the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants, that's what Hashem wants from them.
Right. And
beautiful.
Maybe just to reiterate one of the things you said in the beginning, and that is that if we're able to bring up healthy children who have a healthy self-esteem and really know their milas and not just know that they're great, but they're great at, but as you were saying before, then it becomes doable. That when you don't get into a seminary or to yeshiva or to camp or to shidduch, the triage afterwards of just because you didn't get in, don't let them define you. You have all of these just because they said no, they don't whatever. It becomes doable. But as opposed to just in the moment saying, stupid yeshiva, stupid camp, stupid, seminary.
100%. 100%.
Rabbi Sonnenschein, that was really very inspiring, very yesodistic. I think what we covered are very important yesodos for every parent, because we don't know the direction our kids are going to go in, and there is rejection coming, or maybe not, or maybe yes, in different places. And children really look to their parents as a guide of confidence and belief in them, and how that parent navigates it really makes a huge difference.
Right. And as you said just previously, parenting is not easy, and it's not easy. And it's so much easier to play my child is a victim and I'm going to blame the world and get angry at everyone when he or she doesn't get into whatever place you're going to get into, when invariably for Ruba de Ruba people, super people, that rejection is going to come at one point in their life. My children are not in shidduchim yet. And I say, we're still in the innocent stage.
And I would slacha.
Yes, thank you. And me and my wife talk about this. We're like, we say this, could you imagine? We think our children are the best ever, right? So our child gets read to someone and a family says no to us. It's how hurt. We're like, no, not arrogant. Stop laughing. No, my wife is, maybe I'm the one, and my wife doesn't have an ounce of gaiva in her. It's like, do you know how what a rejection. It's like they're rejecting the entire 25 years that we've tried to instill in our... No. It's like, exactly. Oh my gosh.
Exactly. The whole conversation is worth it. I think there's a lot of important points in the conversation, but this nakuda, believe in yourself, believe in your children.
Right. Believe that just because they said no, we don't fit for them, but don't let that just destroy 25 years of chinuch. It's, Baruch Hashem.
Beautiful. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, Rabbi Sonnenschein. We really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much. It was a schus and an opportunity. Thank you.
Rabbi Garfield, we've been, it was our third year. I don't know, close to 30 or 40 episodes. It doesn't happen every time. Baruch Hashem, we've had amazing episodes. Once in a while, you're listening to someone talk, an Adam Chashuv talk, and you're just like, whoa. That was, you say this. I thought that was a whoa. The way Rabbi Sonnenschein expressed our job as parents, the way in which the difference between allowing others to define your child for you is a weakness on your part, not a strength. Don't just react for the victim, but build them up beforehand. That was special.
Yeah, it really was. And it's so much more than rejection, although that's what we sort of said the topic was, but it's just so much broader than that.
Right, because rejection is, you struggle with rejection when you haven't built your child fundamentally the right way.
Right. It's a simon. It's like the test, the ultimate test, if you were successful.
I will say this, that he's a very confident father, because his children are going to hear this episode, and we have the warrior, and we have Hindi, and I feel like I know the whole Sonnenschein family. I feel like
The Brisker who almost didn't get into Brisk.
Yeah. But no,
Yeah.
it was beautiful. It really was.
He's a wonderful person, and I've heard of him. I didn't meet him yet, so it was nice that he was up to what I expected. And
Yeah,
more.
Baruch
It was
Hashem.
really something special. As you mentioned in the beginning, our next episode will have feedback and use some of the letters and voice notes we've gotten, and they're great. We want to encourage everyone to keep sending them. The way to get in touch is by calling 443-686-9339. Again, that's 443-686-9339, or you could send the email to thelearningcurve@mishpacha.com. That's thelearningcurve@mishpacha.com.
Rabbi, pleasure as always.
All the best.
Take
Be
care.
well.